Welcome to the Bank Marketing Show, the podcast that engages and informs you for success in today's marketplace. It's the show that will make you a better marketer with trends, tactics, and inspiration from experts and industry leaders. If you're wanting to impact your personal success and position your bank as the best choice in your market, you're in the right place. Now let's dive into today's show with your hosts, Chris and Dan.
Hello, welcome everybody. It's another episode of the Bank Marketing Show. Welcome, Chris.
How's it going, Dan?
It's going good.
All right.
Today we've got part 2 of this 3-part series we're on. So I'm excited to get into it. Our last episode was around brand and the power of brand. We talked about, the difference between brand strategy and marketing strategy. We talked about differentiation and how its importance in brand and trust building. And so, it's this kind of high level conversation around just the importance of all this emotional stuff around brand. And today we're going to get into digital, right? So we mentioned last time, this all relates back to an article and a framework that I put together that's kind of based on Chris and I's experience working with a lot of banks and just pulling together the top points for each of these realms. So if you go to bankmarketingshow.com, you can sign up for the Bank Marketing Minute, where we'll go into a little bit more depth and send you that article. You can also reach out to us at contact@bankmarketingshow.com, and we'll send you a kind of high-res version of the Venn diagram that kind of is the companion to these episodes. But the goal is to just, you have kind of this base framework of everything you need to be thinking about when you're putting together your marketing strategy.
Yeah, Dan, to echo that, I mean, if as a listener, after our last episode, if you didn't reach out to us for that, I would encourage you to do so to your own benefit. Because what Dan has pulled this out of is an actual, community bank marketing strategy and strategy process and key independent points and crossover points in this Venn diagram, and then the explanation of each of those. And, really, really tangible, juicy stuff, Dan. So it's great of you to offer that and, to our listeners, for sure.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about the digital bucket. And you see from the episode title, right? It's digital, it's personalized, kind of personalized banking. And, the easiest way to personalize stuff these days is through digital channels. So like we did last time, we talked about kind of the main points of this. So we're going to kind of walk through the 7 main points we want to make around how to think about your digital presence and personalizing that experience for.
Yeah. Dan, I talk about this and giving workshop presentations a lot also, is that some of the stats that I've seen year over year in recent years is there's an average 12% annual decrease in traditional marketing spend and an average annual increase in digital ad spend of 17%. So the seesaw is swinging. We all know that and understand that. And as community banks, some are doing it well and some are drastically behind and underutilizing digital. So that's a lot of why I think the key points that we're going to cover today, Dan, are really important for bankers, kind of regardless of where you are on that scale.
Yep. Yeah, and it's really about we talked a lot about this with regards to brand in the last episode, but it's really about taking, that generic presence and making it more specific, right? Mm-hmm. So the first point is just making sure you're thinking about personalization and not just running ads. And what that means is creating tailored experiences for specific customer groups, right? We're trying to make them feel like you're talking just to them. Yep. And what the tendency of a lot of banks is to just say, we have great service, we will customize your financial solutions for you. Just stuff like that might mean something to you, but it comes across very generically. But when we talk about personalization, it's more, let's talk to that first-time home buyer and tell them what we mean, right? When we say we'll customize the mortgage process for you, don't just say that. talk about it. Have a customer give a testimonial and talk about it. Talk about, right, rather than just saying, we'll customize this thing for you, have a customer come on and talk about how they got rejected from 10 other banks, but your bank, has a different process and was able to approve them, and they got into their dream home or were able to buy their first home in a, expensive housing market, that type of thing.
Yep.
Really tell stories and think past that just generic level of messaging.
Well, and Dan, we need to go straight at the thing that makes the hair bristle on the back of the necks of marketers and bank leaders also is when we're talking about personalization, we also understand the industry that we're in and that it has to be done within compliance. So we have to your example of the digital ad campaigns appealing to first-time home buyers, we realize we have to show that to everyone, say, for example, within radius distances of our branch locations, those types of things. But, the personalization can come from identifiable imagery, so young folks with a baby and they're walking into their house they just purchased, it's just an obvious one.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to see that. But if that's what the product and service is really tailored toward, and that's the kind of personalization that becomes identifiable and relatable.
Yeah, you can't just have an ad that's like, we only help first-time home buyers, and and you can't target that ad just to it's hard to target that ad just to first-time home buyers from like a digital data perspective. But you tell a story or have a customer have a first-time home buyer tell their story, and it becomes an ad that if you're not a first-time home buyer, it still goes a long way to building trust and being specific. But it probably means, right, when we talk about personalization, it probably means you need multiple stories. So you need the first-time home buyer, but you need the business owner, or you need the farmer, whatever those stories are for you, you probably need multiple versions. And then the reason this is coming up in the digital bucket is because on digital, you can do multiple different things and have those 3 videos that get posted to your social, go on your website, end up on landing pages from digital ads, those types of things, and get them in front of the right people.
Yeah, and I know and later in this episode, we're going to talk more about that segmentation and all that. But that is the beauty of that. You're not running one big newspaper ad that you're hoping, that everybody's going to see from the old days, and it's not a billboard that all 41,000 cars that drive by are going to see. But by digital, you are able to personalize and speak to by doing what you just said, is running multiple campaigns. So, taking your X dollars per month in your budget and splitting it into multiple campaigns to talk to different audiences to personalize it specifically to them, and you're going to get better results. You're going to get higher click-through rates.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The more specific you can make it, the more exciting it becomes for that target group. And a lot of banks default to one message that will suit everybody, but that doesn't land, because we just see so many ads these days, and we're all so busy, and you really need to connect to make it to get performance.
Yeah. Dan, you and I were having a conversation with a bank CEO recently, and we were talking about digital, but got the but. And the but was about the human connection. And that is obviously a huge and the huge differentiator for community banks versus regionals and certainly nationals and fintechs and all of that is that human element of it and how that human touch still matters. So let's talk about that for a little bit within the framework of digital. Those are not mutually exclusive things at all.
No, and I think they're intertwined, right? And it can further. It's a great opportunity for differentiation. Where this comes up, where human touch kind of comes up in the digital world most often, is when you get a website form filled out, right? You have a digital ad, you have a landing page, and on that landing page, there's a form saying, hey, reach out to one of our business bankers, or reach out to open an account. Or you have an online account opening, right? And somebody gets halfway through it and drops off. There's an opportunity for human touch, right? Have somebody call, have somebody email that person back, pretty pretty quickly, like the sooner the better, that afternoon, right? That day when, have some automation process. And this doesn't require huge technology systems. It can be as simple as like your form sends an email to the sales team, and then, you can set up your email box to like forward it to somebody else or trigger some action. But give them a call if you've got their number. Send them an email, a personal email, right? You're not getting thousands of these things a day. So just have a process where when a form comes in or a application stalls out, that they get an email back saying, hey, we got this, like we're here for you. Let us help you finish this out. And that goes a long way.
I think the rule here needs to be exactly to your point is the soonest point at which you can engage human touch, do so.
Yeah.
Because the digital ad campaigns, for example, or meta ads and all the different things, and they're driving the landing pages and doing all the things we're doing in this digital realm are top of the funnel. But your point is put that human touch in there as far up the funnel as possible by a phone call or a written note or whatever it is.
Yeah. And this is your differentiation.
There you go.
The bigger banks, the regionals may have some level of this, but it's somebody that's not in their community, right? It's not, this is John from the local branch, and I'm just calling to see if there's anything we can help with. Noticed you dropped out of your application or et cetera. But and when people fill out a form, they expect a contact pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And, if your community bank wants to differentiate itself on service, which most of you do, this is a great way to combine the digital and the human.
Yeah, I hear from a lot of community bankers and the banks that we work with actually throughout the country, that, well, I understand the importance of this digital stuff, but we don't want to lose the fact that we're about local relationships.
Yeah.
And my response to that is, you dang right you are. And let's do that. We're just increasing engagement opportunities, connectivity opportunities, and then plug in what you're really best at behind it with those relationships.
And even for commercial or ag stuff, it's usually done in person or with a handshake.
Absolutely.
You are probably missing out if you don't have a website form for it. You might be missing out on stuff, because if I'm a busy business owner, like I don't want to just call the main number of a bank because I know like a teller is going to pick up, and then I've got to like route to the right person. But I might go fill out a form and say, hey, I'm looking for a commercial account, knowing that when I submit that form, like a commercial person's going to call me back, and it saves me time. And but I'm still expecting, if I reach out to a community bank, I'm still expecting that personal outreach.
Yeah. So Dan, I know that was kind of our big qualifier for this episode is we're about to pull out several other key points around digital, but we wanted to frame that around, yes, the human touch still matters. So
and I think we're including it here because it is a key point. The human touch is still a key point in the digital
absolutely
world, right? Because as a community bank, you are not, you're not moving to a world where everything is automated, but you are moving to, you should be moving to a world where the easy things are automated, and the role of the community bank is like to realize some of your customers don't want any automation and some of them do. So provide it, but also don't make it a requirement. And, that gets to the first point of personalization is understanding your different customer groups and the experience that each one of them want out of the bank.
There you go. Well, so Dan, let's go there, because we mentioned at the top of the episode, and when we were talking about personalization, we were talking about segmentation.
Yeah.
Segmentation, micro-segmentation. So let's go there for a minute.
Yeah. I mean, and what we mean by that is the target audiences you want to reach, right? Mm-hmm. We're pretty simple. It's I'm using the word microsegment here and not persona, just to make it clear that it's a little bit more specific than that. Mm-hmm. It's groupings of customers that are organized around, their goals and fears that you can help address and that type of stuff, which goes to, it's like a persona map. But it could also be another layer of their value to the bank. You may have a differentiated experience for, high net worth customers versus low net worth, even if some of the fears and goals are the same. But the point is, you need to think about your customer groups at the level at which you can start to personalize messaging to their problems. Messaging, especially in digital, is a lot more effective if you're talking about problems versus solutions. People know you have a checking account. They know you offer loans, but that's leaving it on the customer to determine they need a loan, right? Or that they need a specific type of loan. I don't know what a HELOC is. I mean, I do, but customers might not know what that is. And so if you're out there saying, get your HELOC here, they're like, I don't know what that is. But if you say we're going to work with you, figure out your goals and design a solution to meet those, the HELOC might be part of it, but they're going to choose your bank because you're solving their problem, not because you offer product.
Because they want to add on to their house or do a home improvement or whatever. Their kid's getting married, so they need money out of their equity or whatever the case may be. So you paint those pictures.
I like the metaphor here of think about Coke and Pepsi, their advertisements. They're not selling soda. They're selling your thirst being quenched.
Yep.
Right? The pictures of the soda pouring into a glass and fizzing and that makes you thirsty. And they've got the solution for that. The solution is secondary to that problem. And you want to find that for specific groups of customers. So the tendency at banks is to then say, well, we've got checking accounts, but that's not the point. What does that small business owner in your area need? Look at the top 10% of your customers. What are you doing really well for them? And then tell those stories, message to that type of customer to find more of them.
Well, and Dan, I want to give an example here and tie this segmentation that we're talking about in with what our next key point is about is automation, which is obviously a major leverage point of utilizing digital is automation. But one of those that kind of touches both of this as an example is a retargeting campaign. So it's about segmentation because if we're serving display ads to people that have visited our student checking account page, so then they are, receiving a display ad because they came and spent time on that page and we're retargeting them, around solutions for your student or what, you're teaching your young person, whatever the case may be, that is that segmentation that works also, but that's also a beautiful use of automation. Yeah. And I know we're going to talk about a few others as well. So it's accomplishing both things. It's a segmentation, but it's also the automation that is a key component of any digital ad strategy, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's, we're kind of hinting at it earlier about the human touch stuff, but it's not automating the entire process, but it's automating enough steps of it to make it easier and to get to that human touch faster, or to know that somebody fills out a form and their email goes in, they get a personalized email, but that email also goes into a newsletter list or into your CRM.
Or a CRM, yeah.
Yeah, and then they're on your newsletter list. They get email campaigns. They start getting emails from you on a regular basis. I mean, that's really common practice across most online businesses, but banks don't do a lot of it. And it's so many banks just haven't even touched email at all for prospects or current customers. And it's automated. Yeah, we all get too many emails, but it is still the most highly converting channel.
Well, and even if they aren't opening all the emails, they're still seeing the brand. Yeah. They're still seeing, and I use the example, around email as well, is that if you've got a customer list of, you're a community bank and you've got 10,000 and, 4,900 of them you've got email addresses for and all of that, and you're like, well, the industry average open rate is only 17%. Okay, well, I'm not doing the math right off the top of my head, but I mean, that's 1,900 of your customers they opened the email and communicated with that you were not communicating with before. How in what world is that not beneficial? Yeah, don't be salesy. Don't email them every day. Don't, of course, but be, especially like automated onboarding campaigns, Dan, is a great example. People expect it. Hey, I just signed up for, a new account. So, part of that is 3 days later, I get this onboarding email or whatever, Yeah.
Well, and a bigger point is, we're talking about microsegments, right? So it's more emails will get open. I mean, if industry open, standard open rate is 20% or thereabouts, you start personalizing those things. You start sending out not one email to your entire customer base, but 10 different emails to your microsegments. Like you see much higher open rates, right? If you nail a subject line that talks in the customer's problem language, and you get 50-60% open rates.
Yeah, solutions for you as a small business owner or whatever. Even just that simple.
I mean, that or even further, read the story of how Jim, doubled the size of his business with our help. Like really speaking to the goals and the problems that customers are having. I mean, we did a campaign just for like CDs, but I think the bank had done a blanket email offering good CD rates to like all of their customers, and it was a 1% conversion rate, the standard 15 or 20% open rate, and we ran one just targeted to people who we look at their account balances and say, like, these people have a lot of excess cash. So we're going to send them an offer saying you could be making more money, right? Like do this now and you're losing this opportunity. And we got like a 65% open rate.
Yeah.
And, a 5 or 6% conversion rate of people that received the email that actually opened CDs. And, it still sounds low, but it was, more people opened CDs than the generic message.
So that's a really high ROI for doing two things.
Yeah.
One is using data well, and then the other is that segmentation and automation process. So doing it deliberately and using data well.
Yep.
Just those two things in the example that you gave provide a significant ROI.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's sort of an extreme example, but like if you're doing this on your own, it's just avoiding the blanket email, right? To everybody, avoiding the e-blast. Right? I'd be happy if I never heard that term again. There's cases for it with newsletters or happy holidays type of messages.
Right.
But, I think for cross-sell and personalization, it's, you're talking, you got to do more than one email variation, but you should be sending to 5 to 10% of your customers at one time instead of 100. Yeah. And, you got to find the right level, right? At which you can talk about customer problems, and maybe you don't do 10 different emails. Maybe you focus on 2 or 3 customer groups, but that may mean that not all of your customers are getting an email every time. And that's okay. As long as you're, focusing in on those problems.
And tremendous share of wallet marketing opportunities there as well. Talk to your loan customers about deposit accounts. Talk to your deposit account customers about loans, those types of things. I mean, it's still, And so, Dan, one of the big things that we brought up in our prior episode under brand was about consistency. So, and here we're bringing this forward, and one of the other key points we wanted to talk about today is consistency in this, and even omni-channel consistency and what that means in the digital realm. So, go to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just carrying that experience through from across your touch points. If you have an ad or an email that's talking about great CD rates or specialized service for farmers, don't just send that, don't have the button on that click through to your homepage, which is just for everybody.
Right.
Make a landing page. It can be a duplicate of another page that you just change the headline. It can be simple, but have that carry through. Have a poster in your lobby with similar messaging that just ties all those things together. Even better if your online banking system lets you do some segmentation. If you're sending an email to farmers, a lot of online banking systems have a way to segment and populate a dynamic message, right? So if you're sending an email to farmers, you should be able to send that same email list to your online banking platform if it has this feature. And then the farmer shows up on the website and they get a similar message when they visit there. So there's ways to tie it. But, if you're sending out these personalized emails, ads, et cetera, and then they come to your website or come to your lobby and it's super generic, you're going to lose some conversions.
And that's even true. We're talking about digital today, but that's even true across traditional platforms. So if you send a direct mail piece out, make sure that the digital ads and then the landing page, like you say, and then the lobby posters, but make sure that all of those are all shored up and absolutely consistent about whatever that product or service is.
Yeah. Make sure you have a landing page. I mean, that's like the simplest thing that a lot of businesses don't. And I'm not just harping on banks either, but a lot of businesses do that of you just sending people to the homepage, and it breaks the experience.
Yep.
You get a direct mail piece or an ad, and you're really excited about what it is, and then you go to the homepage and you're like, well, I don't see anything related to this, and you leave.
But if one of the key things around this, between 70 and 80% of traffic for this digital is coming through mobile. Okay. So if people are doing that, then one of the other absolute truths about that is they want to be able to act quickly and move on.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that and they're not seeing consistency, if they click on an ad and they come to, just...
Like,
they don't want to just walk in your lobby. They want to go straight to that product or service, and it needs to shore up and be consistent with the ad that they're experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to see it first thing. If it's open a checking account today, that top line on that page you go to better be open a checking account today.
Yep.
And not make people hunt for it. And right. And it's a great point on mobile is think about it. Like, think about it on your phone. And is the button big enough? Can you fill out a form? Do you want to stand there typing on your phone? No. To make the form simple, think about that. Yeah. Think about that experience and the consistency of the message.
Yeah. Well, Dan, speaking of reaching people on their phones and diving into this, and one of the, I guess, concerns that we hear, particularly from traditional bankers and bank marketers that are looking at moving further into the digital realm, and all of this is concerns around privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, really boils down to being clear. Be clear about what you're doing with data, and don't be creepy. So the being clear piece is your attorneys and compliance folks have probably had you make a privacy policy for your page.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really reads those things, but you at least want to be clear as to hey, if you fill out a form, we're going to add you to our newsletter list, or have that checkbox. Little steps like that let people opt out and do that, and then not be creepy. Right? Is we mentioned like a CD campaign, right? We pulled data of people with high excess cash or high balances, and sent them an email. You don't want to send that email and say, we noticed you had, $30,000 you're sitting in a savings account. That's creepy. But we didn't say that. It just said, your money could be earning more.
Mm-hmm.
You're missing out on this opportunity, by not acting on this. But we didn't talk about their specifics, even though they were getting that email because of specifics. But again, and that gets to the compliance piece too of right, they weren't. It's not like we didn't have a CD offer that was just for people with high balances, right? It was obviously a generic or a CD offer that anybody could have, but we just were emailing certain customers to, make them aware of it. But it's available to everybody. So there was a landing there with all that stuff. But, from the privacy perspective, if you went down to the bottom of the email, you would have seen, hey, you're getting this email because you're a valued customer and all that. But it's really just about not being creepy.
There's so many opportunities there within this digital realm. There's heat mapping. There's all the data that we're getting from, gender, geography, mobile or desktop, time spent, on page, and then obviously, clicks. And there's so much data that we can utilize from digital marketing. And even more so when it's personalized, as we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But it's where does our responsibility to adhere to our privacy policies and adhere to who we really are as community bankers and all of that, and not cross any of those lines. And the good news is there's plenty of room there.
No, and most banks have good privacy policies, and I think the point here with digital is to make sure that it's not, that's transparent.
Yeah.
That, you have a privacy policy, but make sure it's clear and transparent to your customers. Just find a simple statement. It's like, hey, we're not going to use your personally identifiable information. Even that CD campaign we ran, we never got customer email addresses or names or birthdays or social security numbers, any of that, right?
It's automated systems.
It's
Right.
automated systems, and somewhere, right, your email tool needs to have it, but you can make a promise to your customers that, hey, we're not selling your data. We're not using it.
Mm-hmm.
We're using it to provide you valuable information that's going to, save you money, make you money. Like, you, you know, be clear about why you're using it and how and who, where it goes. But I think too, to counter that, people are just used to their data being a lot of different places these days. I think anything a bank's going to do is people may be a little bit more focused on it because it's their financial data, but I think they understand that their heat map activities, the way they use the website, is being tracked and that type of stuff. It's more for a bank. It's just more about, like, we're not selling your personal data to third parties.
It's actually a form of service.
Yeah,
because we're only providing the information to you that's pertinent to you.
Yeah, we're using it like you would if you walked into the bank and had a conversation with us, and we tailored your experience there or customized a product for you based on your financial data. I think customers know, like, you're a bank, and the bank's going to need to know their financial information, but you just want to be clear in the digital realm of where that goes and where it doesn't.
Yep, very true.
Yeah. So the last piece, kind of like last time, like you want to talk about.
It is the same as our last one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to talk a little about metrics. So, how do you, Chris, think about personalization metrics, engagement metrics?
Well, again, that's the beauty of the digital world that the traditional advertising world didn't give us, or gave us only in very, very limited fashion. So we've mentioned a bunch of them. The metrics are open rates. They are click-throughs and conversion rates. They are retargeting, ads being served. It's things that are providing us specific information, not only about how we're doing, Dan, but how are our audiences reacting? How are they responding? Is this working? And I don't want to fail to mention, as we're talking about metrics also, that again, one of the beauties of the digital realm is optimization and the opportunity to optimize as we go. We tell our bank clients, and we're doing digital advertising and advertising strategies for I don't know how many of our bank clients, but it's a lot of them. And so much, for example, of our service, Dan, is about consistently optimizing. Once a digital ad campaign gets up and going for a week, 10 days, that gives us enough traction to see what's happening. And man, once it gets past that point, we're looking at it all the time.
Yeah.
And moving spend budget around and A/B testing and, all of these things that fall within the realm of opportunities for digital under metrics to make sure that it's working well. Nothing wrong with outdoor, but we're not putting up 10 billboards and they're there for X period of time and there's nothing we can do about it. It's the opposite of that. It's, we're designing the creative, we're drilling in the strategies as best we can. We're within compliance. We're targeting, as you and I have talked about a lot today. We're personalizing. We're doing all of those.
Yeah.
But then we can see what behaviors in response, we're getting to those by our metrics and even improve it as we go and further personalize, like the retargeting example that I gave, as we go. And I think those are the things that are just so beautiful that marketers of 20 years ago, really even 10 years ago, we could only dream about.
Yeah.
And now we do that as part of everyday marketing.
Yeah. Digital is all about some level of like continuous A/B testing, right? And the metrics that come of that. So, we talking about the micro segments here, right? You need to go through each micro segment and say, well, here's our segment of, medium-sized manufacturing company CFOs. I'm making that up. Like, what do they care about? How do we reach them? Okay, it's a series of emails or it's these ads. And then, you're looking at the performance of those. You're testing different things. You're comparing the performance of the CFO segment to the farming segment and, trying to kind of judge how well that message is working. And then does it perform better than the generic one? Right. If you have the example I mentioned earlier, 1% conversion rate in a generic scenario to 5% in a specific, is that, how does that translate to the monetary monetary level? Is 5% of a smaller group a bigger chunk of profit than 1% of a big group? That's going to depend on that micro segment. But with digital, you can track all of those things.
Yeah. Dan, another big important piece of this about metrics is that marketers are, you guys that are listening, call me or email me if I'm wrong about what I'm about to say. But as marketers, we're always going to our leadership and our boards and wanting more money for marketing.
Yeah.
And wanting leadership to understand that it's an investment rather than an expense. That's what marketing is. So one of the best ways to show that marketing is an investment is by metrics. In showing things, not the real complex stuff, but even things that folks on your board can understand and anybody in leadership can understand that, hey, we're doing this and we're driving through to this, and this is how we measure ROI, or this is how we're increasing, or as we talked about in our previous segment, Dan, our brand is growing. And the way that we're seeing that is the tide is rising because open rates, web traffic, so all the metrics that we talked about in our last episode and we're talking about now are showing traction.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, as marketers, that's our job.
Yeah. Yeah. Show traction, keep trying, keep testing, keep trying different things. There's no, in the world now where everybody sees 10,000 ads a day, there's no one thing that's going to outperform everything else. And when you find something that works, it's going to not work in 6 months, right? Everything is constantly shifting and changing. So there's no other way to personalize or to grow your results than to always be testing new stuff. And if you're not hitting something that doesn't work every now and then, you're not doing enough. And that's kind of, that makes marketing is hard to explain because of that. But it's continuous testing and trying different things, because often what works well is not intuitive. And that I think that this tracking success is kind of our last main point. But a bonus point I'll add here too is something we haven't talked about in this whole episode talking about digital. We have not talked about what digital channels should we use? What do we do? It gets into the more tactics of a marketing strategy. And the reason we haven't touched on that is because it's going to depend on your microsegment, right? There might be microsegments that you're not going to do anything digital. And there might be microsegments that it's all digital. And, and then the channels that you use are going to depend on that microsegment too. So
yeah. And Dan, you and I have had some great guests on in prior episodes that dive really deep into that. So to your point, if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, but I want to hear some of those, great. Reach out to Dan and I. We'll send you the segments, and the episodes that dive really deep into the various digital platforms and maybe the best way to use those. So to your point, Dan, each bank that's listening to us, they can figure out what's going to work the best for them. So
yeah, I mean, if you have
it's just a whole other discussion.
I'll say too, if you've got a microsegment in mind that you're thinking about, email us and we'll give you a quick, a quick email response with some things to try. And, I think we said through this 3-episode series here, this is the prerequisite to a marketing strategy. And it's the marketing strategy where you're going to start getting into specific channels and tying, messages to your microsegments and stuff. But so that's why, right. So that's why it's not here, but it's not that it's not important. It's just that we're kind of not, at this level of discussion, we're not there yet. We're just trying to wrap your heads around the way to approach digital. And once you've internalized these points that we're making here, then you can get to okay, well, what does that mean? I got to think about microsegments first and then digital channels.
Yeah, we could have gone on another 45 minutes about the channels and all of that. So
we'll spare you all.
But Dan, you made a great point for our listeners about why you and I are doing this. As a listener, I don't know if you've noticed, we're not running ads. We're not making money off of this podcast. The reason for that, we're doing this is you and I have a passion for sharing best practices, and helping our listeners and our clients out there and folks that are in this industry, helping them to succeed. That's what you and I both have a very real passion around. So yeah, if you're listening, take Dan up on that offer. Reach out to us. Go to bankmarketingshow.com, and really easy ways to connect with us there, or connect with Dan or I on LinkedIn, or, email us, or again, multiple digital channels, right, Dan, that you can reach out and connect with us. But ask us what to help you. Hey, this is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And what's best for us. We love doing that.
Yeah. Sign up for the Bank Marketing Minute. You can go to bankmarketingshow.com and find the newsletter sign up, or bankmarketingminute.com. Yep. And then, similar to micro segments, right? This is a great podcast here for the micro segment of bank marketers. And, we'll give you more written out version of these 3 kind of episodes and some other tips. And it just becomes easier to reach out to us too when you've got questions. We're happy to help along the way.
Cool. Well, Dan, that's a wrap on episode 2 of 3 in this series. So we covered brand and digital, and then we're going to dive into local, which again is the big key. Who are you part for community banks? And so that's going to be a really great one also in our next episode.
Yeah, I think a lot of interesting tips there of you might not have thought of. Most community banks are really good at the local stuff, much better at the local than they are at brand and digital. But it really ties it together, and it's the key area to differentiate your bank from bigger, more regional competitors. So definitely don't miss the next one.
Well, Dan, thanks a lot for today, and looking forward to that next one. And then I know behind that, we've lined up and got some great guests coming on some future episodes that are going to be adding a lot of value as well. So looking forward to the ones to come as well, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
thanks to everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.